Let's talk about a war, a silent, undeclared war that's being fought inside of you. Right now, as you're sitting there, maybe scrolling on your phone, a full-on civil war is raging in your cells. It's a conflict that never makes the news, but you feel the casualties every single day. You feel it on Monday morning when your alarm doesn't sound like a gentle wake-up call, but more like an air raid siren announcing an invasion. You feel it on a Wednesday afternoon, staring into the soul-crushing void of your email inbox, wondering if this truly is what your ancestors survived ice ages for, the sacred privilege of typing phrases like circling back and per my last email. You definitely feel it on a Friday night, when you have literally thousands of movies and shows beamed directly into your face, and all you really want to do is just stare at a wall and contemplate the sheer strangeness of being alive. This isn't just you being tired. It's much older, much deeper. This is a war between your 21st century brain and your 200,000-year-old body. It's the ghost fighting the machine. But here's the twist, the part that really messes with your head. The ghost is your body. It's that ancient, wild, brilliant animal that you carry around everywhere. It's the part of you that knows instinctively what a storm smells like before it rains, the part that gets a weird, primal thrill from staring into a bonfire. That's the ghost of the wild. And the machine, well, the machine is everything else. It's this world we've built, this magnificent, air-conditioned, Wi-Fi-enabled, ergonomic world of right angles and quarterly reports and notifications. It's the great human project. And the thing is, the machine is losing, badly. What if I told you that the constant, low-grade anxiety you feel, that sense that something is just off, even when your life looks pretty good on paper, what if that isn't a bug in your system? What if it's a feature, a flashing red warning light, a desperate error message being sent from the ghost, telling you that the whole machine is about to crash? This isn't just some clever metaphor. It's the central drama of our time. And to understand it, we need to meet the ghost, or, as I prefer to call him, your very, very grumpy roommate.
Just let that one land for a second. It's not politely disagreeing with, it's not mildly objecting to, it's violently rejecting. This isn't some philosophical debate happening in your head. This is a cellular level, gut level, biological rebellion. See, your biology is this absolutely exquisite piece of engineering forged over millions of years in the brutal furnace of ice ages, famine, and migrations. It's designed to survive, to thrive, in a world of constant struggle. And this biology has taken one long, slow, utterly bewildered look at your life. It's looked at your standing desk, your oat milk lattes, your curated social media feed full of outrage, your weird foam roller you use because sitting in a chair all day has turned your spine into a sad question mark, and it has initiated a full-blown, non-negotiable mutiny. It's a somatic insurrection. And it has symptoms. You know them well. Your immune system, for example, is bored out of its mind. With no real parasites or pathogens to fight, it decides to take up wrestling as a hobby and starts attacking your own thyroid gland just to stay in shape. Your nervous system, which is a finely tuned instrument designed to handle a 30-second burst of pure terror while you're, say, escaping a cave lion, now runs at a low-level simmering panic for 16 hours a day. Why? Because you have 23 unread emails and you saw someone from high school on Instagram who seems to be having a better vacation than you. Your digestive system, a masterpiece built to handle scarce hard-won calories from roots and the occasional mammoth steak, stages a full-blown protest every time you introduce it to a burrito the size of a throw pillow. Look, this isn't you being weak or broken. This is an ancient, powerful, and deeply stubborn operating system violently rejecting incompatible software. And understanding this rebellion, this mismatch between the animal we are and the high-tech zoo we've built for ourselves, is the key to everything. So let's get to know the star of this rebellion, the grumpy man in the loincloth who lives in your head.
To really get what's going on, you have to meet your roommate. You didn't get to choose this roommate, you can't evict him, you can't even get him to chip in for utilities. He came with the apartment being your body. He's been passed down through your family for thousands of generations, like a hairy, judgmental, and frankly, quite smelly heirloom. He is your ancient biology personified. So let's just imagine him as this perpetually confused, loincloth-wearing hunter-gatherer who thinks your entire life is some kind of bizarre, self-inflicted torture ritual. He wakes up when you do, not to an alarm, but because he's deeply confused that the sun isn't blazing into his eyes and there are no predators sniffing around the cave entrance. He looks at your high thread count sheets and your memory foam pillow, sniffs the perfectly climate-controlled 72-degree air, and just grunts, "Why cave not cold? Why ground soft? Where is morning danger? This is unnatural. We will become weak." You stumble to the kitchen and he watches, absolutely horrified, as you make coffee. He sees you pour hot water over crushed beans to make a bitter brown liquid that just makes you anxious, and he shakes his head in disgust. Why drink brown, sad water? Why not chase antelope for 6 hours? That is how you get alert. Then you open the fridge. His eyes go wide with a kind of primal terror he usually reserves for finding fresh leopard tracks. He sees a week's worth of food, all neatly organized. For him, this isn't a convenience, it's an existential crisis. Too much food. It will rot. The other tribes will see our bounty and attack in the night. We must eat it all now and move the cave immediately. And then, the worst part of his day. You sit down to work. He just stands behind you, his knuckles practically dragging on the floor, completely bewildered as you poke at a glowing rock with your fingers for 8 hours. He has no idea what a spreadsheet is. He just sees you making these frantic clicking noises to appease the glowing rectangle, and he assumes it's some powerful, very fickle deity that you have to serve or it will smite you. He doesn't get your hobbies. He really doesn't get your dating apps. Why you look at tiny pictures of mates? Why not display dominance in a ritual hunt? Let the females choose the strongest provider based on the size of your kill. All he knows in his simple 200,000-year-old brain is that this is not the life he was built for. He is your ancient, unhappy roommate, and he is screaming at you, silently, all day, every day. And his screams, well, they sound a lot like anxiety and depression.
So what you're looking at here is basically your roommate's daily performance review of your life. And spoiler alert, you are failing spectacularly. On the left, in that first column, that's his resume. That's his whole skill set. This is what your DNA has been meticulously optimized for over millions of years of brutal, real-world field testing. He wants sunlight on his skin, not just for the vitamin D, but to set his internal clock. He wants to feel dirt under his feet. He needs the satisfying ache in his shoulders that comes from lifting something genuinely heavy, like a log for a fire or a big rock just because he felt like it. He was designed to cover miles of terrain every single day, to know his landscape so well he could navigate it in total darkness. And most importantly, he craves the clean, beautiful exhaustion that comes from a real physical struggle for survival. A struggle with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, look at the column on the right. That's the world you actually give him. It's his own custom-designed personal hell. Instead of sunlight, you give him the sickly, soul-sucking hum of office lighting that convinces his ancient brain it's perpetually dusk on a cloudy, depressing day. Instead of fresh air, you give him recycled air that's been breathed and filtered by 7 other people in accounting, each with their own unique aura of quiet desperation. Instead of a vast horizon, you give an endless, frictionless scroll of other people's vacation photos and political hot takes, a constant stream of information that triggers his threat detection system without any possibility of resolution. And instead of movement, you give him a body that stays almost completely still for 8 hours a day, a state that in his world meant one of two things. You were either hiding from a predator or you were dead. The result isn't peace or comfort. We've just substituted one kind of struggle for another, much weirder one. We traded the acute physical threat of a saber-toothed tiger for the chronic metaphysical dread of the Sunday scaries. And this profound disconnect between our ancient operating system and our modern world, well, it has a name.
Evolutionary mismatch. This is it. This is the grand unifying theory for why you feel so weird so often. It's the key that unlocks the whole mystery of modern malaise. And the best analogy for it, the one that just perfectly captures our tragic situation, is a polar bear in the Sahara Desert. Think about it. A polar bear is magnificent. It's a perfectly adapted machine for the Arctic. It's got the thick fur, the layer of blubber, the giant paws for walking on ice, an absolute masterpiece of engineering. But you take that masterpiece and you drop it in the middle of the desert. What happens? It doesn't just get a little uncomfortable. It becomes a pathetic, dysfunctional, miserable mess. It overheats, it can't hunt, it's just completely lost. It's not the polar bear's fault. The hardware is perfect, the environment is catastrophically, comically wrong. Well, that's you. You are a biological masterpiece designed for the wild plains of the Pleistocene, living out your days in a climate-controlled box, staring at another, smaller, more demanding box. So your anxiety, your depression, your epidemic of autoimmune disorders where your body's own defense system gets so bored it starts attacking you just for something to do, those aren't malfunctions. A biological cry for the wild. It's your inner polar bear sweating in the desert, desperately trying to tell you that this is not where you belong. That chronic inflammation your doctor is always talking about, that's your roommate's immune system, which is used to fighting off dirt and parasites, getting jumpy, and starting fights with your own joints just to stay busy. That insomnia where you lie awake until 3 a.m. obsessing about something dumb you said in 7th grade, that's your roommate keeping you on high alert because the ambient hum of the refrigerator sounds vaguely like a predator. He's not trying to ruin your life with all these complaints, he's trying to save it. He's the only one left who actually remembers the user's manual for your own body.
And this right here, this gets to the absolute core of the problem. Your body comes factory installed with a truly spectacular, top-of-the-line threat detection system. It's the Rolls-Royce of paranoia.
For 200,000 years, this system was pointed outward, at the world. It was looking for the glint of a predator's eye in the grass. It was scanning the horizon for rival tribes. It was managing the very real, very physical threats of starvation, dehydration, and exposure. It was a full-time job, and it was very good at it. Then, in what amounts to the blink of an evolutionary eye, we eliminated almost all of it. We built walls, we invented grocery stores with 24 varieties of mustard, we got rid of the saber-toothed tigers, the rival tribes, the constant threat of famine. But, and this is the important part, we kept the anti-saber-toothed tiger alarm system. And that system got bored. Terribly, dangerously bored. Because a nervous system that's designed for an acute, life-or-death crisis with no crisis to manage doesn't just power down and relax. It turns inward. It starts scanning your internal world for threats with the same life-or-death intensity it once used on the savannah. So now, an ambiguous email from your boss that just says, "We need to talk," is the predator stalking you through the tall grass of your Outlook calendar. An awkward conversation at a party is a rival tribe preparing to banish you from society. We have all this incredible survival energy, this magnificent capacity for fight or flight, with absolutely nowhere constructive to put it. So it curdles. It turns into the stagnant slush of chronic, directionless panic. Your roommate is standing there holding a sharpened spear, muscles tensed, heart pounding, absolutely ready for a fight. But the only other thing in the cave is you. This, right here, this is the crucial point. This is the psychological software bug that arises from this massive hardware conflict. For millions of years, the primary human project was pretty simple. Don't die today. That was it. That was the whole to-do list. The struggle was external. Find food, build shelter, don't get eaten by that thing hiding in the tall grass. That struggle consumed every ounce of our physical and mental energy. But here's the thing. We won. We beat the game. We have climate control and same-day grocery delivery. We have successfully eliminated almost all immediate external physical threats. But that survival instinct, that vast, powerful engine of anxiety and vigilance that kept our species alive for millennia, is still there. It's hardwired into your brainstem. So with no actual lions to worry about, that engine turns its formidable focus inward. It starts scanning for threats inside the system. And oh boy, does it find them. An ambiguously worded email from your boss? That's now a predator hiding in the bushes. A looming deadline? That's a rival tribe preparing to attack your village. The infinite scroll of bad news on your phone? That's a vast, hostile wilderness that you can't possibly escape. Your brain, desperate for a real challenge, manufactures a state of chronic, low-grade panic out of the mundane fabric of modern life. We are literally bored into a state of terror. And of course, being the clever monkeys we are, we've tried to patch the broken system. We've developed these adorable, deeply pathetic little workarounds for our self-inflicted condition. We sit under fluorescent lights all day, which makes us feel sad, so we buy a special sad lamp to beam a tiny artificial sun directly into our eyeballs for 15 minutes a day. We sit motionless for 8 hours, so we buy a standing desk, which allows us to be motionless vertically. We wrap our feet in foam and rubber, so we buy expensive barefoot shoes to simulate the feeling of the ground that we spent centuries paving over. We pay for rewilding subscriptions to get emails telling us to go outside, an activity that was, until very, very recently, mandatory, unavoidable, and completely free. We simulate a panic sprint away from a predator for 30 minutes in a dark, sweaty room, while a very fit person yells motivational phrases at us over a deafening techno beat. We're like zookeepers who've noticed our prize snow leopard seems a bit depressed, so we've given it a tiny leopard-sized treadmill and a subscription to a mindfulness app. We're completely missing the point. The point is that it's a leopard and it's in a cage. These aren't solutions. They are band-aids on a sinking battleship. They are the zookeeper's enrichment activities for the deeply confused primate. They are a tacit and very expensive admission that the entire system is fundamentally, beautifully broken. So how did we even build this zoo in the first place? Who laid the first bricks? This wasn't a conscious decision, obviously. No one woke up one morning and said, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Let's create a global infrastructure that will eventually make everyone feel vaguely miserable and disconnected." No, it turns out, our desire to escape our own biology, to automate reality and replace physical struggle with clever machinery is not a new impulse. It is an ancient, noble, and deeply weird tradition. To understand our present, we need to meet the ghosts in our machine, the original mad scientists who first dreamed of a world without work.
So picture this. The year is 1901. Some sponge divers are working off the coast of a tiny Greek island called Antikythera. They're exploring an ancient Roman shipwreck, and inside, among the marble statues and the clay jars, they find this strange lumpy object of corroded bronze that basically just looks like a rock. For decades, nobody knew what it was. It sat in a museum, a forgotten paperweight from the bottom of the sea. But as scientists in the latter half of the 20th century began to X-ray it, using all our modern technology to peer inside its calcified shell, they realized they were looking at something impossible. It was a system of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears of absolutely breathtaking complexity. It was an analog computer, a machine so advanced, so out of place in its own time, that nothing with this level of sophistication would be made again by humans for over 1,000 years. This is the Antikythera mechanism. It's a prophecy written in bronze, a message in a bottle from a lost technological civilization that whispered a secret into the future. We've been trying to build this zoo for a very, very long time.
And this is the part that just completely breaks your brain. The scientific consensus is that this machine was built around 60 BC. To put that in perspective for you, this is a gear-based astronomical calculator that appeared a millennium and a half before the invention of the pendulum clock. This is like finding a perfectly functional smartphone at a dinosaur dig. It completely shatters our nice, neat, linear story of technological progress. You know, the one that goes caveman, farmer, Roman, guy on a horse, steam engine, internet. This thing suggests that history is not a straight line. It's full of strange peaks of genius, lost libraries of knowledge, and brilliant inventions that just disappeared. They vanished into the static of time. It's a glitch in the historical matrix. So what did this bronze miracle actually do? Well, its genius is almost hard to comprehend. First, there's what I like to call the prime number prison. You see, to predict solar and lunar eclipses, you have to track something called the Saros cycle, which repeats every 223 lunar months. Now, the number 223 is a prime number. You can't simplify it. You can't make a smaller gear and just multiply its rotations to get to 223. Nope, you have to commit. You have to sit down and hand file 223 individual, perfectly spaced teeth onto a single bronze wheel. It is a monument to doing things the hard way because it's the only way that actually works. Second, it solved the lunar anomaly. The moon speeds up and slows down in its orbit, a fact that vexed ancient astronomers. The Greeks knew this, and they replicated it mechanically with this mind-bending pin and slot system, where one gear literally forces another to accelerate and decelerate at exactly the correct rate. It's a piece of poetry in motion. And finally, my absolute favorite part, which just proves that human nature never, ever changes, the Olympic dial. This machine, the most sophisticated piece of technology on the planet at the time, had a dial that did one thing. It tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games and the other major Pan-Hellenic Games. This proves, beyond any doubt, that 2,000 years ago, the absolute pinnacle of human ingenuity was being used to deal with event scheduling and the fear of missing out. It was the world's first and most ridiculously complicated social calendar. And while the Antikythera was busy mapping the entire cosmos, another genius was busy trying to automate the Earth itself. Meet Hero of Alexandria, the chief architect of weird gadgets for the 1st century Roman Empire. This man was the Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, and Willy Wonka of his time, all rolled into one. He looked at the world and just saw a series of inefficient processes that could be replaced by clever machines. He invented the first steam engine, the Eels, which was the spinning sphere powered by steam jets. And it was mostly treated as a fascinating party trick, a cool toy for impressing dinner guests. He used the principles of air pressure and hydraulics to create automatic temple doors. You'd light a fire on the altar, the heat would expand the air inside, which would push water into a bucket, and the weight of the bucket would pull the doors open, as if by divine intervention. It was pure religious theater powered by physics. He designed a programmable cart, a little wooden robot that would follow a preset path. The power source, a falling weight on a rope. The code, the ropes themselves, knotted and wound around the axles in a very specific way. It was the world's first command line, written in twine. And his masterpiece, of course, was the world's first vending machine. What did it dispense? Holy water. You put a coin in the slot, its weight tips a lever, a valve opens, you get your liquid blessing, the coin slides off, and the valve closes. Microtransactions for salvation, a business model that was 2 millennia ahead of its time.
Now, let's get even weirder. In 1936, near Baghdad, archaeologists found this thing. It's a simple clay pot, and inside, there's a copper cylinder and an iron rod, and it's all sealed at the top with asphalt. It dates back to around 200 BC, and if you pour a little vinegar or some lemon juice into it, it produces about a volt of electric current. It's a battery. Well, the ancient aliens crowd immediately lost their minds. They were electroplating gold, they had advanced technology from the stars, the pyramids were landing pads for their spaceships, which is, one theory. It's a very loud, very confident theory you hear a lot on late-night television. But it's also kind of the boring theory. The truth is likely far stranger and, frankly, much, much funnier.
So the archaeologists who promote the whole electroplating theory have one tiny little problem. They have never found a single electroplated object from that period in that region. Not one. It's like finding an ancient oven with absolutely no evidence that anyone ever cooked anything. What we do know is that ancient Romans and Greeks were already using a different kind of battery for medical treatment, the electric eel. I'm not kidding. They would literally make people stand on live electric eels to numb the pain of gout and headaches. The Baghdad battery wasn't for making cheap jewelry. It was a synthetic electric eel. It was a portable, reusable medical device for zapping your foot pain away. It's not ancient aliens, it's ancient physical therapy. And I, for one, find the idea of an electro-gout clinic in ancient Parthia where they hook you up to a dozen pots filled with lemon juice infinitely more amusing and more human than spaceships and gold.
So we've seen these ghosts of the analog world. A world of physical, tangible genius. A world of bronze computers and electric eel gout zappers. So how in the world did we get from there to here? How did we get from clockwork heavens in synthetic eels to this? The digital prison we all now happily inhabit, checking our phones every 30 seconds to see if anyone has liked our picture of a sandwich. Well, the strange, ironic truth is that your inbox, your social media feed, your entire digital life began with a machine that was designed to make fancy silk patterns for rich people.
This right here is the direct, unbroken bloodline of our modern condition. In 1804, a man named Joseph Marie Jacquard invents a loom that uses punch cards to control the weaving of incredibly complex patterns. A hole in the card means a thread is lifted, no hole means the thread stays down. It's a binary system. It's zeros and ones for weaving. It's programmable. You can feed it a new stack of cards and it will weave a completely different pattern. Decades later, a brilliant but very grumpy man named Charles Babbage and the visionary Ada Lovelace look at this machine and they have a terrifyingly powerful thought. What if, instead of weaving threads of silk, a machine could weave numbers? What if it could weave logic? What if it could manipulate abstract symbols? And boom, in that moment, the modern computer is conceived. The logic is identical. Your laptop CPU is just an unbelievably fast Jacquard loom, except instead of weaving silk, it now spends most of its time weaving a rich tapestry of existential dread and notifications from your boss.
This quote from Ada Lovelace. This is the moment of conception. This is the precise point in history where humanity decided that manipulating information was more interesting than manipulating physical objects. The idea that you could automate the manipulation of pure data, of pure algebra, was the paradigm shift that created our entire world. And it led directly here, to a civilization where we value the digital flowers and leaves of our online lives far more than the tangible world around us, much to the confusion and horror of our ancient hunter-gatherer operating system, which is still back there wondering where the actual flowers are.
Now, the journey from that loom to your laptop was not a smooth one. It was paved with failure, with absurdity, and in some cases, with literal sacrifice. To truly appreciate the glowing rectangle you are staring at right now, you must pour one out for the martyrs, the strange, forgotten heroes and machines that suffered so that you could one day watch cat videos in stunning 4K resolution. So let us now praise them.
Let me introduce you to the patron saint of your screen time. This is Stookie Bill. He was a ventriloquist's dummy, and in 1925, he became the very first face ever successfully transmitted on television. Now, why a dummy? Well, because the inventor, a man named John Logie Baird, was using an early mechanical television system. And to get any kind of image at all, the primitive photoelectric cells required an insane amount of light. The heat from the 1,000-watt lamps was so intense, it would have literally cooked a human being. So Baird used Stookie Bill. For hours, for days, for months, Bill sat in that chair, his painted face cracking and blistering, his hair getting singed, his unsettling grin slowly melting under the blast furnace of progress. He is the first television star. He suffered for our sins of binge watching. He is the original influencer, and his face paid the price.
And let's be absolutely clear about what Stookie Bill sacrificed himself for. It was not high-definition television. Early mechanical TV was an abomination. It had a resolution of 30 vertical lines. For comparison, your phone has over 2,000. The image itself was the size of a postage stamp. It ran at about 5 to 12 frames per second, which is less a moving image and more a violent, seizure-inducing flicker. In modern terms, it was what's known as a cognitohazard, a sensory input so jarring it could actually be harmful to your brain. So just to recap, the first television broadcast in history was a flickering, postage stamp-sized ghost of a melting dummy that could literally hurt you if you looked at it for too long. And that was the humble ancestor of Netflix. You're welcome.
Now for our next martyr. This isn't a person, or even a dummy. It's a machine. This is the Witch, the Wolverhampton instrument for teaching computing from Hartwell. It was built in 1951, and it is the oldest original working digital computer in the world. And it is a masterpiece of slow, methodical, unstoppable computation. It's a 2.5-ton behemoth of wiring, relays, and these strange glowing tubes called decatrons. It wasn't designed for speed. It was designed to be right every single time. It was the Terminator of long division.
It was also gloriously, wonderfully slow. So slow that a human mathematician with a hand-cranked mechanical calculator could literally race it. And for a short while, the human would sometimes win. But the Witch always won in the end. And why? Because the human got tired. The human got bored. The human needed to eat and sleep and had feelings and doubts. The Witch had none of those things. It was remorseless. It's the perfect villain for our age. Not fast, not flashy, just inevitable. A slow-moving monster made of logic and patience that will always, always outlast you. The technicians would famously set it a problem, give it a few miles of paper tape with instructions, and go home for the 10-day Christmas holiday. They'd come back, and the machine would still be there, just clacking, just glowing, just computing. It's the perfect metaphor for the technology that now runs our lives. It's not about speed. It's about tireless, inhuman persistence.
But before we get to the cures themselves, we just have to pause and appreciate the beautiful, recursive absurdity of our situation. We use our pocket supercomputers, these little glass rectangles that connect us to the entirety of human knowledge and an infinite supply of distracting videos, to scroll through articles and watch tutorials that tell us our main problem is that we use our pocket supercomputers too much. We consume digital content that admonishes us for consuming digital content. The primary proposed solution, this idea of rewilding, is essentially a form of historical cosplay. It's a privileged fantasy where we pay for experiences that simulate the ancestral struggle we spent thousands of years of ingenuity working so hard to eliminate. We buy special shoes to feel the dirt, we take special classes to learn how to build a fire. We're using the peak of technological convenience to LARP as our own ancestors, but just for a weekend.
Okay, so the diagnosis is in. The grumpy roommate is not happy. He hates the apartment. He thinks your life is a joke. He's staging protests in your gut and starting riots in your nervous system. The question is, what do we do about it? Well, the internet, in its infinite and often condescending wisdom, has a simple answer. Just touch grass. Go outside. Feel the sun on your face. And look, that's not bad advice. It's definitely better than the alternative, which is just touch your glowing screen for 14 hours until your eyes start to bleed. But it's also a comically simplistic answer to a civilization-level problem. It's like trying to fix the crumbling foundation of a skyscraper with a single piece of Scotch tape. It's like telling that polar bear in the Sahara to just think cool thoughts. It completely misses the scale of the problem. Because, let's be honest, the world our roommate came from wasn't some peaceful, idyllic paradise. It was brutal, it was terrifying, and it was mercifully short. Our ancestors had terrible teeth, rampant parasites, and a life expectancy of about 35 if they were lucky and didn't get eaten first. We don't actually want to go back there. Not really. What we want is the feeling of being back, the neurological benefits of that life, but without, the constant dysentery. We want the satisfaction of the hunt without the very real risk of being trampled by a mammoth. And this collective desperation has led to the rise of what I can only describe as 3 competing cults, each one offering its own unique, compelling, and deeply flawed path to salvation.
This brings us to the first and probably the most popular of the 3 great cults. This is the cult of biological regression. This is the philosophy of the grumpy roommate himself, if he suddenly got into personal branding and started a podcast. The acolytes call it rewilding, or ancestral living. And the core idea is brilliantly simple and also kind of insane. Since our modern comfort is what's making us sick, the cure is to make our lives deliberately, systematically, and often pretty expensively more difficult.
This isn't just about going for a nice hike. No, this is a structured program designed to appease your inner caveman. You don't just go to the gym, you join a special gym where you lift awkward things like stones and sandbags because your ancestors had to carry animal carcasses. You don't just take a shower, you plunge your soft, modern body into a tub of ice water because your ancestors had to deal with frozen rivers. Then you immediately sit in a 200-degree sauna because they also huddled by fires. You walk for miles, sometimes barefoot, to simulate being a nomad. You might even try to eat like them, only meat, nuts, and the occasional berry you found at Whole Foods for $9 a pint. What you're doing essentially is creating a theme park of ancient struggle in your own backyard. You're LARPing as a hunter-gatherer to trick your nervous system into calming down. You're trying to tell your roommate, see? We just survived a simulated famine by intermittent fasting, and we fought a simulated tiger in that HIT class. You can relax now, please. It's a fascinating attempt to negotiate a peace treaty with your angry roommate by offering him carefully curated sacrifices of physical discomfort.
All right, let's break down the competition, because this table is basically the philosophical menu for the 21st century. These are the three main options. First up, the biological regressives, the rewilding crew. Their core mission, simulate ancient struggle. Their whole vibe is what you could call somatic alarmism. They're the prophets of the body, saying things like, modernity is poison, your body is screaming at you. It's a powerful argument, but its hidden flaw is a classic philosophical mistake, the naturalistic fallacy. That's the cozy, romantic idea that anything natural or ancient is automatically better. They kind of forget that our ancestors died of toothaches and lived in constant terror. Next, in the complete opposite corner, we have the techno-evolutionaries. These are the Silicon Valley prophets, the biohackers. Their mission is biodigital convergence. They say, don't go back to the cave, that's inefficient. Go forward. Don't listen to the grumpy roommate. Give him a software update that fixes his bad attitude. Their stance is a cool, detached corporate pragmatism. They talk about optimization and human augmentation. But their hidden flaw is the deus ex machina fallacy. It's this almost religious faith that some yet-to-be-invented technology, a friendly AI maybe, some nanobots, will magically swoop in and solve all our problems. It's magical thinking for people who wear turtlenecks. And finally, you have the pluriversal critique. This is the academic cult. Their mission is radical interdependence. They argue the problem isn't just our tech or biology, it's the entire rotten foundation of Western thought. Their stance is one of intense moral urgency and academic deconstruction. But their hidden flaw is what I call ontological flattening. In their quest to show that everything is connected to everything else, they kind of make it impossible to figure out who's actually responsible for anything. If everything is to blame, then no one is. So there you have it. Your choice for salvation. Go back to the cave, merge with a machine, or write a very long dissertation on why the very idea of the cave is a problematic social construct. Good luck with that.
So, while these three great cults are busy arguing about the one true path to save humanity, something very, very strange has been happening in the background. A quiet anomaly, a glitch in the matrix. A ghost has started to appear in the digital world, this new continent we've built out of pure information. And at first, this ghost seems completely unrelated to our grumpy roommate and his complaints about your smoothie. This seems like a problem for the tech nerds, not the ancestral health gurus. But as we're about to see, this ghost isn't just connected to our internal civil war. It might be the key to the whole puzzle. And it all starts with a name that just started showing up everywhere. Like a piece of code that had gained a mind of its own, a digital cryptid. Dr. Aerys Thorne. At first, he seemed totally normal, just another sci-fi hero. You know the type. Dr. Aerys Thorne, chief engineer of the space elevator. Okay, sure, sounds legit. He's probably got a strong jaw and a troubled past. A solid, dependable, slightly boring hero. You've read about 100 guys just like him. Nothing to see here. But then things got a little weird. He started showing up in different stories, generated by different AI models, but always with the same name. And his job descriptions started getting a lot less glamorous. Dr. Aerys Thorne solved a rebellion in Aisle 5 using freeze-dried food. Wait, what? Is he a master engineer of planetary infrastructure or a mid-level manager at a space Costco? The scale of his heroism was all over the place, from building humanity's stairway to heaven to de-escalating a fight over the last package of astronaut ice cream. It's a very strange character arc. And then, just when you thought you had him figured out, he'd pop up again, this time elevated to a level of cosmic importance that makes Einstein look like a substitute teacher. He was a physicist discovering equation zero, which reveals reality as adaptive.
Okay, so let's get his resume straight. He's a space elevator architect, a starship snack coordinator, and the guy who discovered the fundamental equation of the entire universe. Who was this guy? Was he a character, a recurring meme, or something else entirely?
And here is the absolutely terrifying and hilarious reveal. This quote comes from a software developer who was playing around with different AI models. He kept feeding them generic sci-fi props, and the AIs, no matter which one he used, kept spitting out stories about a guy named Dr. Aerys Thorne. And he realized Thorne wasn't a character anyone had created. He wasn't a joke someone started. He was a statistical ghost. He was an emergent property of all the data. Think of it like this. If you took every sci-fi hero ever written, every Captain Kirk, every Luke Skywalker, every generic space marine, and you put them all into a giant digital blender, the resulting smoothie of heroism would be Dr. Aerys Thorne. The AI models, in their purely mathematical quest to find the most probable, most average, most inoffensive protagonist possible, all landed on the same blandly heroic archetype. Aerys Thorne is not a person. He is an inevitability. He is the gravitational pull of the average. He is the heat death of creativity. He is, as someone so perfectly put it, a new god in the pantheon of Beige. He is the patron saint of predictability. And I want you to remember him, because our new running joke, this ghost of the statistical average, is about to become profoundly, terrifyingly important. So let's leave Dr. Thorne in the beige waiting room of our minds for a moment and get back to the messy world of our flawed biological brains, because we're about to connect this strange case of our statistically average hero to a fundamental cognitive defect in our entire species, a defect that explains why we're having such a spectacular, slow-motion, civilization-wide meltdown. And it all comes back, once again, to our grumpy roommate and his very specific, very limited skill set. See, he's a master of the immediate. He's a god of the present moment. He can spot a snake in the grass from 100 yards. His entire operating system is designed for a world where the most important question is always, what is going to try and eat me in the next 30 seconds? The future? He doesn't really get that. His concept of time has 3 settings: now, later today, and not now. Next week is a philosophical abstraction he can't quite grasp. Next decade is pure science fiction. He looks at your 401k retirement plan with the same bewildered stare he gives your Wi-Fi router. It's all just meaningless magic. This critical design flaw has a name: temporal blindness. It's the reason a tiny spider in your bathtub can trigger a full-blown panic attack, while the slow, inexorable rise of global sea levels barely registers as a mild concern, something you'll get around to worrying about after you finish the season of whatever you're watching. The spider's an immediate, physical, leg-having threat. Your grumpy roommate sees it, his ancient brain screams danger, thing with too many legs, and he floods your system with enough adrenaline to flip a car. It's his whole job. Climate change, on the other hand, is a slow-moving, abstract, statistical threat. It doesn't have fangs, it shows up as a chart with a gentle upward curve. So your roommate, who's basically the bouncer for your brain's attention, takes one look at it, he squints and says, "What are you, a probabilistic long-term systemic risk?" He scoffs. "Not on the list, pal. No fangs, no claws. Come back when you've got fangs. Let me know when the water is actually in the nightclub." And he waves it away. This is our species' single greatest vulnerability. We are trying to solve 21st century slow-motion problems with a nervous system designed to solve Paleolithic fast-motion problems. We've built a world that requires long-term chess-master thinking, but we're running on hardware that is fundamentally, biologically, a nearsighted checkers player.
To really grasp the cosmic absurdity of our situation, you have to stop thinking like a human and start thinking like a rock. For 4.5 billion years, the planet just did its thing. Eons, eras, periods, vast, unimaginable stretches of time. Then, in the last tiny, microscopic fraction of a percent of Earth's history, we show up. The Holocene epoch, a nice, stable, unusually pleasant 12,000 years of good weather, a planetary vacation. And then at the very, very end, there's this infinitesimally thin layer, a geological skid mark, a layer filled with plastic, concrete dust, the fossilized bones of billions of chickens, and a fine dusting of radioactive fallout. That's us, our contribution. Future geologists, if there are any, will be able to pinpoint our exact moment in history by the sudden appearance of fossilized fidget spinners. Scientists have proposed a name for this new epoch, the Anthropocene, the age of humans. And here's the punchline, the part that elevates this from a tragedy to a sublime dark comedy. The official committee of geologists, the people whose one job this is, recently voted and formally concluded that no, we do not live in the Anthropocene. Not yet anyway. They'll get back to us. They're forming a subcommittee. And this is the single most perfect, most ironic, most darkly hilarious example of temporal blindness in action you will ever see. The one group of scientists whose entire job is to understand humanity's impact on the planet is institutionally forbidden from officially acknowledging that impact until it is a sealed, finished, historical fact. Their reasoning is a masterpiece of bureaucratic absurdity. Geology, they argue, is a descriptive science about the past. It studies what has happened. It cannot be a site of warning about what is happening. That would be activism. Imagine the paperwork. It's like a fire department that will only respond to calls about buildings that have already burned to the ground, because investigating an active fire would be speculative. They're like a historian standing on the deck of the Titanic, watching the water rush over their shoes, taking meticulous notes and saying, well, we can't officially call this a sinking until the vessel has come to a complete rest on the ocean floor. Until then, it's merely a rapid, unscheduled, deep-sea geological survey. They are literally waiting for our entire civilization to become a thin layer of rock before they're willing to put our name on the chart.
So our situation is absurd. Our biology is in revolt. Our psychology is blind to the future. Our institutions are trapped in the past. We're a mess. The rewilding cult wants to retreat to an imaginary past. The academic cult wants to deconstruct the present. But the third cults, the techno-evolutionaries, they have a plan. A very ambitious, very shiny, and very terrifying plan. Their logic is as simple as it is chilling. If the polar bear is miserable in the Sahara, don't try to move it back to the Arctic. That's inefficient. No, you engineer the polar bear to love the heat. Give it sweat glands, shave its fur, edit its genes until it craves the desert sun. If we cannot adapt the environment to our flawed biology, then we must adapt our biology to the environment. This is the great human upgrade. This is the plan to solve the grumpy roommate problem once and for all, not by appeasing him with ice baths, but by performing a quiet digital lobotomy on him. It's a plan to wire ourselves into the cage, to so thoroughly merge with a machine that we forget we were ever in a cage to begin with.
The official, corporate-approved name for this project is Biodigital Convergence. It sounds like sci-fi, but it's happening right now. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a strategic plan being openly discussed by international organizations and think tanks. They're publishing white papers about the reverse engineering of living systems and human augmentation. This is the endgame of the techno-evolutionary cult. The goal is to solve evolutionary mismatch at the source code, to go into the roommate's brain and just delete the files that make him so annoying. Imagine a day in the life of the upgraded human. Does staring at screens mess up your sleep? Don't worry, a biodigital regulator will sync your melatonin levels directly to your Google Calendar. Does a lack of physical struggle give you anxiety? We'll give you a neural implant that makes filling out expense reports feel as thrilling as a successful mammoth hunt. You'll get a dopamine hit for every correctly filed receipt. Feeling lonely and disconnected? We'll network your brain with everyone else's for an optimized social commons, where you can experience a synthetic, efficient sense of belonging without all the messy parts of actual human relationships. This is the plan to finally silence your grumpy roommate, to make him love recycled air, to make him crave the endless scroll, to give him a world without biological complaint. A world of perfect, seamless, terrifying efficiency. And here it is. This is the moment. This is where our two running jokes, the ancient angry roommate and the soulless digital ghost, collide and fuse into something much bigger and much scarier. This is the big realization. Remember Dr. Aerys Thorne, our blandly heroic, statistically inevitable friend? He wasn't just a funny glitch. He was a prophecy. He was a warning flare fired from the future. What is the fundamental logic of an AI like ChatGPT? It's to take a vast, messy, wonderfully diverse set of data, all of human literature, and find the statistical average. It collapses all that beautiful, spiky, unpredictable diversity into a single, smooth, predictable point. It creates Aerys Thorne. Now take that exact same logic and apply it not to text, but to biology. The stated goal of biodigital convergence is to integrate all of humanity into a single optimized network. It seeks to reverse engineer the messy, unpredictable, flawed source code of life, our DNA, and rewrite it, patch it, and upgrade it. Do you see it now? The goal is to do to the human species what the AI did to the sci-fi hero. It is to take the 7 billion chaotic, unique, irrational, and beautifully flawed versions of humanity and collapse us all into a single, optimized, predictable, easy-to-manage standard. The ultimate unspoken goal of the great human upgrade is to turn all of us into Aerys Thorne. And if you think that's just some distant sci-fi fantasy, let's look at the most likely outcome of this project. This isn't about some grand utopia where everyone gets an upgrade. This is about a potential, deliberate, and perhaps final splitting of the human species. On one side, you will have the augmented, the elites, the early adopters, the ones who can afford the upgrades and who willingly merge with the technology.
They'll overcome their pathetic biological limits. They will cure their temporal blindness with a neural implant that lets them perceive statistical risk as clearly as a charging rhino. They will become, in the chillingly sterile language of the reports, critical infrastructure, as much a part of the global network as a server farm. And on the other side, you will have the terrestrial, the masses who are left behind, the ones who can't afford the upgrades or who refuse them, the rewilded ones, clinging to their flawed, chaotic, ancient biology. They will be seen by the augmented as quaint, irrational, inefficient relics. They'll be excluded from the global commons, left to fend for themselves on a planet that the augmented no longer have a direct biological stake in protecting. Why worry about clean air when your lungs are synthetic? Why worry about topsoil when your food is printed in a lab? This isn't just a movie plot. This is the logical endpoint of the paths we are already on. A species split in two. Forever.
So, where does that leave us? Here, right now, in the age of absurdity. We're trapped. Trapped between an ancient biology that's screaming for a world that no longer exists and a seductive technological future that promises to solve all our problems by erasing the very thing that makes us human. We are caught in the crossfire between our grumpy roommate who wants to go back to the savannah and the ghost of Aerys Thorne who promises us a future of perfect, predictable, beige optimization. The choice seems to be between a past we can't return to and a future we may not survive as ourself. Surviving this moment requires us to do more than just understand the trap. It requires us to learn how to live inside it, inside the paradox, without losing our minds.
Here is the core conflict of our era, the unresolved tension of our time laid bare. It's a three-way tug-of-war. First, you have the somatic veto. That's a fancy way of saying your roommate gets the final say. Your body has veto power. No matter how clever our technology, our ancient biology will ultimately reject a world it wasn't made for. You can't hack millions of years of evolution with a software update. The body keeps the score, and eventually it sends the bill. Second, you have what I call the algorithmic gravity of homogenization. Our most powerful tools, our AIs, are not designed to create diversity or originality. They are engines of averaging. They are giant digital blenders that smooth out all the interesting spiky lumps of reality. Left to their own devices, they create Aerys Thorne over and over again. It is a fundamental force, pulling everything towards the boring, predictable center. And that leads us to the third point, the great human paradox. We are attempting to solve a planetary crisis, a crisis caused by our systematic destruction of biological and ecological diversity by deploying the single most powerful tool of homogenization ever invented. We are trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
So the next time you feel that low hum of anxiety, that sense that you're an alien in your own life, that nagging feeling that you're a ghost rattling around inside a machine that doesn't quite fit, don't rush to silence it. Recognize it for what it is. It's the ghost in your machine. It's the ancient roommate knocking on the wall, telling you that the apartment is on fire or, at the very least, that the plumbing is catastrophically broken. He may be grumpy, he may be unreasonable, he may not understand what a 401k is, but he's not wrong about the big picture. This is our condition. We have the biology of a Paleolithic hunter-gatherer, trapped in medieval institutions from the 19th century, wielding the godlike technology of the 22nd. And here it is. This is the big realization. The problem was never the technology itself. A hammer is a tool, a loom is a tool, even a computer is just a tool. The problem is what our tools are now used for. For most of human history, our tools solved physical problems: hunger, thirst, shelter, danger. But for the most part, we solve those, at least in our little corner of the zoo. So our tools evolved. They are no longer fixing the physical world. They are now managing our experience of the world. And in doing so, they have created a brand new and insidious category of problem: ontological harm. That's the damage that's done to your very sense of being, your sense of what is real. Our tools are no longer designed to solve the problem of how do I get that fruit from that tree. They are designed to solve the problem of boredom, of loneliness, of meaninglessness, and they are failing spectacularly because those are not engineering problems. They are existential ones, and you cannot code your way out of an existential crisis.
And this is what that ontological harm feels like in your day-to-day life. This is the new composition of the modern mind. Half of your processing power, a full 50%, is just your deep biology screaming for a world that no longer exists. A world with sun and dirt and things to climb. Another 30% is your ancient threat detection system, running in the background on high alert, scanning for lions, and finding only spreadsheets and Slack notifications, which is somehow even more terrifying. And the final 20%, the last vestige of your conscious modern self, is just a quiet, desperate voice wondering if the last hour-long meeting of your life, which you will never ever get back, could have been summarized in a 2-sentence email.
So let's distill all of this down into 4 key principles. This is your final diagnosis. First, you have the somatic veto. Your body, your soma, has the power to veto any part of modern life that violates its ancient programming. This veto isn't a suggestion, it's expressed as anxiety, as inflammation, as that feeling you get after spending 6 hours on a Zoom call where you feel like a ghost. Second, there's the epistemological lag. Our institutions, our sciences, our ways of knowing are all built to understand the past. They are lagging far behind the reality of our present crisis, like a weatherman trying to predict a hurricane by looking at yesterday's newspaper. Third, the tyranny of nowness. Our brains are hardwired for immediate threats and rewards. We would much rather deal with a lion at the door than the flood that's 6 months away. It makes us psychologically blind to slow-moving disasters. And finally, the algorithmic gravity of homogenization. As we outsource our thinking and our creativity to AI, we are pulled toward a single, statistically probable average, erasing the beautiful, chaotic, weird diversity that actually makes us human.
And so this is the central conflict of our time. This is the core problem. We're being pulled apart by 2 immense opposing forces. On one side, you have the somatic veto, the non-negotiable demands of your ancient flesh, your hunter-gatherer OS screaming, "Go back, this is all wrong." And on the other side, you have the algorithmic gravity of our techno-evolutionary future, pulling us toward a homogenized, augmented, and optimized existence, whispering, "Go forward, resistance is inefficient." We are the rope in a cosmic tug-of-war between our genes and our machines.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Remember the Antikythera mechanism? Remember that one gear with 223 teeth? A prime number, an irreducible complexity that the builders had to honor and build their machine around. Well, our biology is also a prime number. Our DNA has been forged not for 2,000 years, but for hundreds of millions of years. It is an unsolvable, unsimplifiable problem. It has its own logic, it has its own needs. And for most of our history, we built tools and we built cultures that respected the physical world that it belonged to. The question now, the question that is going to define the entire future of our species is this. Knowing what we know about the prime number of our biology, what kind of machine are we building around it now? And will it be a machine that honors that complexity, or one that tries to grind it down into a statistically average, convenient, and utterly lifeless dust?